Stealth games are a dying breed, unfortunately, with fewer of them coming out with every passing year. It's particularly sad because at its best, nothing could top this genre. One of the many ways stealth in games has endeared it to millions is by giving players unique tools and abilities to use against overwhelming odds. And when these are used properly, it feels amazing. In this feature, we'll be talking about some of our favorite stealth gadgets and abilities in video games. So without further ado, let's jump right in. OCTOCAMO, Metal Gear Solid 4. You might have thought to yourself as this feature began, there's gonna be a lot of Metal Gear talk in this one, and well, you were right. The first few gadgets and tools we'll be speaking of are all from Metal Gear, starting with MGS4's OCTOCAMO. In keeping with the conceit of Old Snake being a wizened, experienced man who has been through the ringer, he's also had some of the best gear helping him out, and OCTOCAMO was the best of the best. The suit gave him the ability to immediately camouflage and blend into the environment as soon as he came in contact with any surface, while also protecting him from thermal imaging. As far as utility goes, it's hard to think of stealth-oriented tools that are more useful than that. Well, there is one. Motion Tracker, Alien Isolation. As opposed to nearly all other stealth gadgets in this feature, the motion tracker in Alien Isolation is used purely for defense, but you come to rely on it so much that it pretty much becomes your best friend through the course of the game. The best thing about the motion tracker is its limitations. Rather than exactly pinpointing the location of the xenomorph, it gives you a rough approximation while it also has limited range. These limitations make an already terrifying game even more terrifying. OPTIC Cable, Splinter Cell series. Super Agent Sam Fisher's arsenal of stealth gadgets is second to none, and few of his gadgets have as much utility as the OPTIC cable. It's basically just a fancy name for a camera at the end of a cord, but it was still extremely useful. Throughout the course of the series, it has been equipped with night vision, thermal vision, EMF vision, and zooming abilities, while also being able to distract enemies with clicking sounds in Blacklist. It's the definition of simple but effective. Disguises, HITMAN. The HITMAN series brand of social stealth had no equals in the industry, and the excessive amount of freedom and creativity they offer to players needs no introduction. The bulk of that, or at least a very significant portion, comes from disguises. From the mundane, like a mechanic or a security guard, to the highly specific, like close associates of your assassination targets, to the downright bizarre, like mascots in ridiculous costumes. Agent 47 can don the clothes of anyone and everyone, and he does it in the most convincing fashion. HOLOGUISE, Ratchet and CLANK. Stealth isn't usually the first thing on players' minds when playing Ratchet and Clank, but the series does have some gadgets that are at least stealth adjacent. Exhibit A, the HOLOGUISE, which, like nearly every other gadget in the series, and in keeping with its wacky personality, is an absolute blast to use. It allows you to disguise yourself as any enemy. Hell, Ratchet can even use it to disguise himself as Dr. Nefarious. Even though it's not strictly speaking from a stealth game, given its very nature, we just couldn't resist mentioning it in this feature. Active Decoy, Metal Gear Solid 5. The Phantom Pain's Active Decoy is the perfect cross between the advanced technology of camo suits and the ridiculous, cartoonish nature of the cardboard box. It essentially creates an inflatable replica to fool and distract enemies, and yes, it's completely bizarre. But that's Metal Gear for you. Using multiples of these in conjunction to get through heavily guarded military bases is more satisfying than you can imagine. Detective Vision, Batman Arkham series. Probably the single most useful and effective tool Batman has at his disposal in the Arkham games, to the point where it's almost OP. The fact that you can spend more than half of any game in the series with Detective Vision on should tell you as much. It allows you to look through walls, find perch points, it has heat vision, it lets you spot weak points in walls that you can blow open, it tells you how scared your enemies are of you, and outside of stealth, it lets you study clues that are vital to making progress. Without Detective Vision, Batman would probably be completely useless in the Arkham universe. Berserk Darts, Assassin's Creed series. Assassin's Creed's Berserk darts may not make people lose their grip on reality and cause them to inflict harm upon themselves, but they're no less useful. Shoot an enemy with a Berserk dart, and as the name suggests, they would go berserk, turning on their allies and dispatching them for you while you watched from a distance. Not only were they especially useful for taking out enemies without having to get your own hands dirty, they were also great distractions and could be used for luring enemies away from specific spots. The best feeling of all was shooting huge brutes with Berserker darts, watching them rip through scores of their own former allies and then succumbing to the poison when the effect wore off. Cardboard Box Metal Gear Series. So from super advanced camouflage suits to a cardboard box. The cardboard box has been a Metal Gear staple for decades, and it's absolutely ridiculous. But that's why it's so good. The idea of sneaking through a highly secured, heavily defended enemy military base and hiding inside of a cardboard box to sneak past soldiers is exactly as cartoonish as it sounds. But there's a unique charm to it that even the most advanced stealth weaponry in games cannot replicate. Dual Hidden Blade Assassin's Creed series. No item, ability, or gadget in Assassin's Creed will ever be as cool or useful as the Hidden Blade. But you know what's even cooler than a hidden blade? Two hidden blades. That moment when you first walked up to two enemies standing side by side and then casually dispatched both in one smooth, slick motion was simply put magical. And no matter how many thousands of times you do it after that, it just never gets old. Sticky Cam Splinter Cell series. Just as useful as the fiber cable or snake cam is the sticky cam, which as its name suggests is a camera that can be launched and anchored to nearly every surface imaginable. In addition to having all the capabilities of a snake cam, you can also use multiple sticky cams at the same time and cycle through their video feeds, essentially allowing you to make a makeshift surveillance system on the go. Stealth Camo Metal Gear Solid. What's better than a suit that instantly mimics the pattern and texture of whatever surface it comes into contact with? A suit that renders you practically invisible. And that's what the Stealth Camo in Metal Gear Solid was. It was hard to come by, and it only made you invisible for a temporary period, sure, but complete invisibility when you're trying to be stealthy is like turning into the Incredible Hulk when you're trying to kill people. Explosive Gel Batman Arkham series. The Caped Crusader is all about striking fear into the hearts of his enemies and slowly and stealthily picking them off one by one while they try to figure out the hot mess they've gotten themselves into. The Arkham games do an excellent job of putting players into that role, and one of the many gadgets we get to use while in that role is the Explosive Gel. It can be used to take enemies out, it can be used to distract them, or it can be used to open up new paths you can use to get around areas more stealthily. Though much more loud and in your face than most other Batman gadgets, the Explosive Gel has a lot of utility. HISOMU Terror Dart Mark of the Ninja. Mark of the Ninja was great at making players feel like badass ninjas sleuthing in the shadows and dispatching enemies with ease. One tool in particular that came in particularly handy for that purpose was the HISOMU Terror Dart. The name is pretty self-explanatory. Dipped in a powerful hallucinogen, whoever you shot this dart at was inflicted with a deep terror, and that person essentially lost their grip on sanity to the point where they would hurt themselves. Talk about hardcore. Oh, and speaking of darts, ICARUS Landing Deus Ex Mankind Divided. The ICARUS landing system is probably the single most badass ability you can unlock in any Deus Ex game. It's already pretty useful on account of how it negates any fall damage and allows you to drop from great heights without making any noise. But with the added bonus of the ICARUS Strike ability, it also immediately incapacitates any enemy in your vicinity as soon as you land. It's so useful it almost encourages you to create opportunities where you can jump from heights and take out enemies as you make impact with the surface. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, please hit the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to switch on the notifications bell icon next to it. That way you'll never miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching.